This store has been using the same product photos since 2014. Flat background, straight on angle. The same shot every other store selling this stuff is using too, because you're either stuck with whatever the manufacturer hands you or you pay for your own photo shoot. Now, photo shoots aren't cheap, thousands of dollars, weeks of waiting, and the second a new product shows up, you're starting over. So instead, I turned this store over to AI. And before I explain what I'm doing, let's get those photos downloaded from the website. I have no access to the photos outside of the website, so I'm going to go and download them from the website. This store runs on WordPress and it's using WooCommerce. So I went into the file manager, I archived them, and then I went and pulled down all the photos. Now there's a bunch of ways to do this depending on your platform. This is just how I did mine. So back to AI. Did I give it one prompt and it just did everything perfectly? No, it took more than that. Hi, I'm Tracy. I'm running a real store through AI, and today's focus is on the product's photos. And if you want to see any of the other things I've done with this store, just check out the playlist. It has a list of things. So today's tool of choice is Codex, which is from OpenAI. It's not a regular chat box where you ask something and it just answers you. Instead, you give it a task and it actually goes into your files and does the work itself. Opens things, changes things, tries things, and then it comes back and shows you what it did. And that's exactly what I needed for a folder of a few thousand photos. So I downloaded the Codex desktop app and I pointed it to this folder where I put all of those photos I had just downloaded. Now, the way I'm doing it is I'm going to stay in the loop the whole way through. I could have built this where it was a complete automatic process for the whole job. Pull the images down from the website, sort them, generate the replacements, upload them back, and never look at again. And that is possible. I didn't do that here because this is client work and I want to make sure that I'm watching exactly what AI is doing. If it was my stuff, I couldn't care less. I'd hand it off and move on. But this is going out under someone else's name, so I want to see exactly what's leaving my hands before it does. So that's a choice I made for this project. Where you land depends on what you're building and who it's for. So I just gave a really basic prompt and said, here's what I'm doing to Codex. So I wanted to see if AI could help turn these basic e-commerce catalog photos into stronger website images and social content. But I didn't want this to be a one-off prompt where I just asked for pretty product photos and hope for the best. I wanted to see if AI could actually run the process with me. So I started explaining the business problem. Product photos were accurate, but boring. They worked as catalog photos, but they didn't really create interest or help someone imagine the product in use. I wanted better website images, plus a plan for future social content. So I gave it the master brand playbook that we had created in a couple of episodes before. So it had our audience and the vibe and positioning of the brand. The playbook included the brand direction, the audience, tone, and visual guardrails. This was important because I didn't want it just to create random AI images. I wanted the images to feel like they belong to the same business and were created for the right customer. And then from there, AI helped turn that into a workflow. Because this is client work, I can't show the real files on screen. So I recreated the same setup pretty close to it with generic product photos. What you're seeing is a demo version, but it's the same kind of workflow Kodak used for my client. First, it asked for the source files and reviewed what was available, the ones that I had already pulled down from the website. Then it helped narrow down which products were actually active and which ones should be ignored so that it wasn't creating imagery for products that weren't even being sold anymore. And there was quite a few of those. Once the product list was cleaned up, it separated the work into two different tracks. The first track was website images. These had to stay accurate because they would appear on product pages. And the second track was social images. These could be more lifestyle focused, but they still need to match the brand direction. Then it created a plan. It decided we should not refresh everything all at once. Instead, it started with tests. The point of the test was to find a style that made the images more useful without making the product inaccurate. Because one of the biggest rules in the projects, the image can look better, but it cannot lie about the product. So the AI checked things like product shape, the coverage scale, color, logo placement, and whether the item was being shown in the right type of context. For example, some products would well as a clean flat lay image. Others needed to be shown on a model because the shape or length would be misleading if it was lay flat. That was one of the more important decisions the AI made. It wasn't using the same style for every product. It chose the image treatment based on what would make the product clearer and more accurate. And that was amazing. Now, I gave feedback during the process when something looked wrong, and at one point an image looked nice, but the sides of the product were completely wrong, so I flagged it. And then AI treated that as a rejection. It moved the incorrect image out of the candidate set and regenerated it using the source image more closely. So that was a big part of the workflow. It didn't assume every AI image was usable, and the process became create a candidate, review it, reject it if the product truth was wrong, regenerate if needed, only approve when it passed. So once the test direction was working, the AI created a batch plan. It selected the next group of products, deciding what kind of image each one needed. And then it wrote the prompts, generated the images, saved them into the candidate folder, and kept the file names organized. So the images were not saved randomly. They were named with SEO-friendly file names so they could eventually be used on the website. And then after the batch was generated, the AI created a contact sheet. And this was really helpful because instead of reviewing every image one by one, I could see the whole batch together. And that made it easier to spot anything that looked inconsistent or repetitive or inaccurate. Then it copied the approved images into a final approved website folder and updated the tracking sheet. And the tracking sheet included the product name, file name, suggested alt text that you put on your website, where the image should be used, and approval status, along with some notes. So the AI was not just making images, it was managing my production workflow. And my role was to give the business context, approve the direction, and step in when something did not feel right. The AI's role was to run the process, organize the file, create the plan, decide the image treatment, generate the candidates, review the outputs, reject mistakes, rename files properly, and prepare everything for website use. You know how long that would have taken back in the day? So this was less like using AI as a image generator and more like using AI as a production assistant for an e-commerce website. So if you're thinking of redoing your product photos for your store, whether they're from a stock catalog where you're selling a bunch of stuff everyone else is, or if it's your own unique stuff, I would give AI a try, and I actually really let it know what your lifestyle or your new product images you want, because it's doing it really well. It did it all through Codex. I did not hook in any outside image platforms. This was all in Codex, which is really nice because from a cost perspective, I'm not using another subscription. And the biggest takeaway I had using Codex for this particular project was that it worked best when it had clear direction, but enough room to make some decisions. I didn't have to tell it every single step. I gave it a goal, the brand direction, the product constraints, and feedback when needed. Then it handled the workflow and just kept the project moving forward. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.